What's going on, Cowboys Nation? It's your boy J Rock J to the ROCCC, aka iWis, and welcome to iTalkCowboys TV. Before I get into it, I want to thank everybody who's been checking in to see how everything is going. I know I'm gonna be late, but there's a lot of probably topics I'm gonna be talking about on this channel. But I wanted to make sure I get the presentation and the layout and how everything look, what I'm saying, to what I felt like was, was presentable. And I feel like it's that now. So with that being said, this is episode 1 on I Talk Cowboys TV. So let's get into it.
Touchdown, Dallas. Another Marquez punt. Turpin. Racing up the middle. Uh-oh. Cavante Turpin needs one more block. He's got it. And he goes for the touchdown. And Jell is missing. Blitz coming. Prescott sees it. Has a man. It's Lamb. Beautiful throw. Lamb gets away. CeeDee Lamb to the house. Touchdown. Second effort. He's in. Touchdown. Place right there. Got 3 hours to do it. Got it for a touchdown. Jalen Colbert on that 3rd and 10. He's got it. Touchdown, Dallas. The other side. Second down. Cole. Has that ability, not just out there being physical in the run game. Second year out of North Dakota State. Sideline. Here goes Lamb. He gets straight on the inside. CeeDee Lamb. Watch out. Get it to Prescott. Up open. Picks him off. Now fires to the end zone. Upright number for a touchdown.
So I hope you guys like them highlights. With that being said, all right. So the Cowboys have hired a new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, aka I'm gonna call him Shotty. I haven't watched the press conference fully to be able to, and I did that for a reason because I was trying to get this channel together. I wanted to do my own live, feelings and takes on it, and hear what he had to say in regards to the future of the Cowboys. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it.
Here to the Star in Frisco. I'd like to introduce our participants here on the stage, who everybody knows. Of course, Cowboys owner, president, and general manager, Jerry Jones. Our new Dallas Cowboys head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. And Chief Operating Officer, Executive Vice President of Player Personnel, and co-owner, Stephen Jones.
Yeah, we'll clap for you.
Now, what we'd like to start off with is some remarks from
the entire Jones family. Over the past 3 years that I've been here, it's been really incredible to get to know them. But I would say really over the past 4 or 5 days, as we've spent a lot of hours together, that I really realized why this organization, but most importantly, this family is so special. So thank you guys for the opportunity. From a football family, the Schottenheimers, to the Jones, thank you guys for this incredible opportunity. And I look forward to working so closely with the entire family in continuing the legacy and tradition of this football team and the special brand that it has. I'm honored and privileged to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'd like to just talk briefly about some of the people that we're looking for. And there's a lot of those young men in the back of the room here that, as you guys will learn from me, the Schottenheimers tend to be criers. And that just means we show our emotions. And so the type of people we're looking for that are modeled by a lot of the young men in the back that I will talk directly to them in a minute is just a special group. We're looking for world-class competitors, guys that want to compete every day to be the best versions of themselves. We are looking for people with a relentless work ethic. I was taught at a young age by my father that you can outwork people in this business. You don't belong in this organization if you don't value relationships. This business has never been about X's and O's. It's about people. And when I thought about it, I can't imagine sitting up here with a better group of people, a better family to do this with. So I thank you guys for that opportunity. And lastly, the type of people that we want, people that love this game. The game of football has given me so much, my family so much, but if you're not passionate about the game of football and the shield and what it represents, then you're probably in the wrong line of business. To our players, you are the core of this program, and we will focus on you every day. To Dak, JT, JB, Demo, Brock, T-Sizz, Josh Butler, Kalen, Carson, Scooney, you're back there. I don't know if anybody else snuck in that I missed. It means the world to me that you guys are here. And I can't wait to do this alongside you, to get to know you guys at an even deeper level. I want to get to know your hearts. I want to capture your hearts and let you guys get a great feel for me. But thank you for being here. It means the world to me. Quickly about culture, things that I believe in. The family first mantra, which is embodied by the Jones family. To do and make the sacrifices that we make in order to pursue excellence, it requires the sacrifice, and you need to make it fun. My conversation with the Jones has been incredible. We see football the same way. It's a first-class organization all the way. You can't. I've never been in the big room, Jerry. Steve, I've never been in the big room. But it's a first-class organization. But please understand this. A first-class organization is not just about the structure or the walls. It's about the way that we treat one another, about the way that we earn each other's trust and respect, and the way we just treat our fans. We treat the people that matter to us most. What I'm going to challenge these guys to do is to let their personalities shine. We've got some incredible, incredible players. We've got incredible support staff. The strength staff is here. That means the world to me. You guys took the time to come up here. But to do what we need to do, it's going to take incredible amounts of hard work, but we're going to do it together. Our team, the Dallas Cowboys, will be driven by a competitive spirit and a love for one another. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't thank my family. It's been an incredible journey. I've had some opportunities when I was a much younger man that I didn't feel like I was ready. I'm ready now. I know what I want. I know what it looks like. But for you guys that have been with me the whole time, my extended family, I love you. Thank you for being here. To my sister that couldn't be here, Kristen, I know she's watching. She probably has on my dad's Schottenheimer jersey. To my wife, Jemmy. It's been an incredible journey. Lots of ups, lots and downs. You've always been by my side. You're my best friend, and I love you more than you know. To my kids, Sutton and Savannah, thank you for the sacrifices that you made to allow me to pursue my dream. You are my greatest achievement, and I love you. To my mom, one of the first ladies of pro football, when I saw her last night and I had a chance to embrace her, she said, "Baby, you did it. I love you." And in closing my remarks, there's one person that's not here today, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. My father was a legendary coach, a great man, but he was an incredible father. And he's impacted me more than anyone in this profession. I know he's looking down on me. I know he's proud. And I miss him very much. But I know what he'd say to me. He'd say, "Brian, the easy part is over. It's time to get to work." I love you, Dad. Thank you, everybody that's here. Go Cowboys.
All right, we'll carry on with questions, and we'll start out here in the row with Calvin.
Thank you. Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. This is for Jerry and Stephen. Why did you pick Brian Schottenheimer? What was it about him that you guys felt like he was the right fit for you guys?
Good question.
In the almost 35 years that I've been involved with the Dallas Cowboys, I've only missed one Senior Bowl, 35 years. And I think I missed one combine in 35 years. At the NFL, over the last 4 or 5 years, the NFL, we want to come in a day early so that we can visit with prospective coaches for the future of my team and any of the teams. In 35 years, I don't think I've ever visited with a coach, but what in my heart and mind I wasn't having an interview. I don't think I've ever had a coach visit with me that wasn't prospectively thinking maybe someday our paths might cross. I know Jones might give me a little thought as I'm along the way. I've been around a lot of coaches. As a matter of fact, I wanted to be a coach. Except I wanted to live better than I thought coaches live. I wanted to drive a little bigger car, and I wanted to fly in an airplane. Had I known what I'm paying them now, I'd have been a damn coach. But having said that, coaching is no, and the makeup of coaches are no stranger to me. On my college team, within almost 3 years after we won the national championship, every position coach, the Johnny Majors, the Hayden Fries, the Doug Dickeys, every position coach became a head coach. Barry Switzer at Oklahoma. So I've seen it when I was a pup. I have a good background in the makeup of what a coach is. To think that you could make a decision in an interview and not have talked, if you didn't and hadn't ever communicated or had a visit, I wouldn't dare have had an interview unless I talked to many people that knew that person. and had had those kinds of life experiences, knew their story, if you will, Shotty, knew their story. Pat is here today. Jean, my wife, is here. Pat is Shotty's mama. When I served on the competition committee, we had many times that we were together. Jean knew Marty. Okay, we knew you. We know what osmosis is, and we know what Shotty grew up around. Not just from that, but we knew. Frankly, from the standpoint of Shotty, those X-hairs crossed. Shotty might never have been in our mirror or in our view had he not joined us to be with Mike as a consultant 3 years ago, and had been a coach. I've sat in handfuls of meetings with Shotty. I've listened, I've watched him have deference to his head coach. I've watched him have deference to experience guys like Zimmer, guys Lance got around. I've watched him bite his lip sometime when he didn't necessarily agree with that direction, but he bit his lip as his daddy would have told him to bite your lip. Have deference to the head coach. I've watched him exercise those things. I've particularly been a part of seeing what's brought this players in here today. Guys like Dak. And I know that Shotty is no stranger to these guys. I know he's no stranger to this building. Now, I get my proverbial ass kicked over needing people in my comfort zone. Without this thing being about me in any way, if you don't think I can't operate out of my comfort zone, you're so wrong. It's unbelievable. This is as big a risk as you could take. As big a risk as you could take. No head coaching experience. Now, let me share something with you. With all of that, you've just heard him reference his osmosis, his family. Anybody in this room that doesn't believe the apple doesn't go far from the tree has missed it someplace down the road, especially if there was an effort to make it that way, and there was an effort. But then you go around to the countless numbers of coaches that Shotty has served on staff with and been around, the countless players. How often do you have someone that has 25, I want to say 25, it may be 26, of years of working through the human relationship and working, aspiring to learn, have his ears and eyes wide open and looking for techniques and looking for things that make coaches better? How often do you have a chance to take advantage of all of that at 50 years old, which is a puppy? Yet he's had 25 years being around the kinds of things that he's going to have to draw on to be a coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
What in the world?
I like his baggage.
What in the world? Hold up.
I like his baggage. I like that experience. But let me say this. I was standing with Shotty.
What's going on my audio?
When he called his mother.
Oh. Yo, did they cut Jerry Mike?
And I heard
Man, they had me
the
take
other
this over
end,
on
and
my
I
audio.
was listening to Shotty.
Somebody turn
And
Jerry
one of
Mike
the
down.
things he said to his mama is, Mama, I'm going to get what Daddy didn't get a chance to get, or got a chance but didn't get. And I'm going to get a Super Bowl if it kills me. And his mother, of course, was emotional. This one will be for Daddy. The first one will be for him. I don't know what you call instincts. I don't know where you come. I really wouldn't dare try to tell you how Jimmy Johnson got here. I don't want to go into all the psychological stuff that caused Barry Switzer to be here. Or Chan Gailey. But it wasn't just about X and O's. And it was about things that were all melded in with some of life's experience and using my own osmosis, how I got here. All of that comes to play. I've read where we didn't have but 4 or 5 interviews. It's ridiculous to think that you can make a decision to coach the Cowboys relative to the number of interviews that you might have. He's a product of a lot of time. Many will say misplaced time or skewed times. I've read where I don't have a penchant for risk-taking. If you really knew my score sheet, you would see that I've taken more risk in the last 5 years than the rest of my life put together. And sometimes I don't know when I look in that mirror why the risk is taken. With it there, let me say this. It was a huge risk to get involved with the Dallas Cowboys. Huge. And a lot of people that quote unquote didn't understand or feel like it could be done. I spent a nice part, Tim Calishaw, you'll remember it. I spent a nice part of my early 4 or 5 years with the Dallas Cowboys defending why not Coach Landry and defending why Jimmy would make a good coach. I think one time I said he's worth 5 Heisman trophies to be a good coach. Did I know? No, but I knew Jimmy. Okay, had I interviewed countless thousands of coaches? No. No, not at all. So what I'm here to tell you is this was a thorough process, shaded by whatever my experiences have been, shaded by my experiences with Stephen and Charlotte and Jerry, shaded by many things. We all are involved in this. And what I would say for the fans is that yes, to some, and it might be couched as a less than glamorous hire. What I would say to you is I got here taking shots and not shoddy shots. I got here taking shots. Good things have happened. Let me tell you something. There's some stuff to be had over there where not many people go. There is. Don't think for 1 minute I won't take a shot. This was risky. This is risky. But by the same token, how often can you take a risk when someone has had over 30 years, almost 30 years, getting my numbers mixed up, but almost 30 years of being around coaches, of being around players. That's 2/3 of his life. And then the rest of it growing up in a football-oriented, NFL-oriented family, if you will. I think this might make something special. So I'm all behind what we're, to say the very least, Clarence, for your benefit, I'm all in here.
All right, hold on. Just a second. Let's tilt these mics down a little bit. There we go.
Clarence Hill, All City DLS. You brought up risk. You also brought up Super Bowl. What about this move gets you to the Super Bowl? Because that's what the fans are talking about. And Shotty, by the same token, question for you and for Shotty. What difference can you make from the Mike McCarthy era from a cultural standpoint that gets him over the hump?
Mike's one of my best friends. And when you talk about what Mike and this football team has done over the last 5 years, it's been some incredible success. One of my greatest strengths is my ability to create relationships. Relationships that are built on trust, respect, connection. I'm really good with X's and O's, but I'm great with people. And the type of men that we have in this locker room are excited about that. And so I think as we build this thing out, as the culture comes together of this team, that's where I feel like my greatest impact will be felt. With the relationships, the ability to communicate. I've always been someone that was very good at having open dialogue, hard conversations, and I've always tried to paint very clear, bright lines. And that's what I plan to do as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Excuse me, speak up.
How does this get you to the Super Bowl? How does this move get you to the Super Bowl?
Mike McCarthy left some good stuff here. One of them was Brian. He did leave. Mike McCarthy's a hell of a coach. He left some good stuff here. It was time for a change. I've heard it criticized. We spent 5 days getting to come to that decision. We did come to that decision. One of the reasons we came to that decision is because there was this decision available to us as well. One of the reasons. Schotty has fantastic support among our players, key players, real support. And they've seen him when he was on top. They've seen him when it didn't work out so well. That's an advantage here. That's a real advantage. That was big. That was real big. This process, I've read where it looked disjointed, it looked untimely, it looked those kinds of things. The very nature of the process, the time after we played our last game, and you've all heard me talk about how I felt about Mike McCarthy as being a good coach. But that time, those days, to reflect with him and go through many things that we should and wanted to talk about, that caused us to arrive at that. But what we have is an opportunity to take some of the very best things that are here in place, Mike's doing, some of those very best things, change some of that, add to it, and be better for that. Schotty's very much aware. I've heard Schotty referred to as maybe old school with his offensive philosophy. Well, I'll tell you one thing. As these philosophies or as these offensive philosophies evolve, okay, Schotty has a good feel for not only the offensive philosophies where they are today, but where they're going to go, and certainly where it has been. That's rare to come in here with this kind of energy, this kind of I'm going to show them. That's rare to combine those two things. Yeah, there'll be change, but we'll use in place some of the many things that we have here now.
Brian, Todd Archer with ESPN. You said in the beginning that you weren't ready then to take a head coaching job. Why are you ready now?
I think, over the past 19 years, when that first was afforded to me, when I was first-time coordinator with the New York Jets, and a bright spotlight. There were things that made me pause.
Now that I think about it.
Now, spending the better part of the last 19 years learning, listening, doing, I've learned things, almost more things that I don't believe in than things that I believe in. Todd, I've always tried to be someone that moves around. I want to be around incredible coaches and players and try to learn from them. And so going to Seattle was, I would say, critical to my development as a coach. Pete Carroll challenged me in a number of ways. He challenged me to continue to be authentic, to continue to dive into the relationships that matter, which is your coaches, your players, ownership. He challenged me offensively, to be honest with you. He challenged me with,
Well, actually, take it back.
hey, what do you think about this scheme? What do you think about that scheme? You know, and the McVay Shanahan style was taking off, and in Seattle we were competing against, you know, Sean and Kyle, and so he's like, he was pressing me. So I just really feel like things changed for me when I went with Pete. Learned a ton from my dad and all the coaches, Mike and Steve Spurrier, all those guys. But Pete Carroll had a huge impact on me, and it probably sharpened my edge and sharpened my view on what I want this opportunity to look like. And that was a big change for me, and one that I'm excited about moving forward.
And then for Stephen and Jerry, what do you guys need to do differently to support Brian and to end the 29-year drought that you guys have between going to a Super Bowl?
Well, I think we, you always have to evaluate, where it didn't go right last year. And obviously we're also evaluating where it didn't go right, in terms of, this drought that people say we're in terms of a championship game or a Super Bowl. And, we just have to continue to make this roster better. It'll certainly be something that Jerry, myself, Will and his staff, and now Coach Schotty and his staff, we'll sit down and take a look and see what we have to do better. I think we got a lot of great pieces. You ask why Schotty? I think Schotty's the perfect combination of keeping some continuity, but also affecting change. And we have to support that as well in terms of being behind him and doing the things he wants to do. I've walked in Schotty's shoes. I have a lot of deference in myself as well, working with Jerry. Schotty did the same with Mike. Would he do things different? Is he going to do things different than Mike? Absolutely. I'm convinced of that. And, I think we got a great plan on defense. I think we got a great plan on special teams. We're putting that all together. That has to come together as a staff, and certainly Schotty leads that. And as he said, his best, some of his best characteristics are communications and working with people. And I see that. I've taken that in. I've gotten more respect through this process with him, and also talking to other men about the job. But certainly we'll do a real deep dive on putting some personnel together, whether it be through the draft, free agency. I know, typically that's not been the way we've done this team, but we'll certainly look at it and, put really good, not only players, but good football character people with some of the men we have in this room right now. And we have a lot of great players on this team. And certainly no one has excuses. We had a few challenges this year on the injury front, and that's why we think we do need to keep some continuity. Certainly every team, when they're looking for a coach out there, is looking, what's in the best interest of the quarterback. Certainly that played a role here. And, Dak's not making any coaching decisions, nor does he want to. But I can tell you every team who made a coaching decision was looking at how they solved for the quarterback. And, that's how you win in this league. I think we've got one of the best, if not the best, in terms of our quarterback. And he's the ultimate leader. And we just have to continue to put the pieces around. And, we're not naive. I know our fans, they're not going to believe, and there's going to be pressure until we get the job done. And certainly we didn't get the job done this year, and our ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl. I can tell you, I've never seen a man more driven than Jerry. This is huge to him to go get this championship. And I know Coach Schottenheimer believes the same thing, and I know our players sitting in the back want it. I mean, they want it. They're driven to get it, and we've got to get the right people to put around them. We'll have turnover in our roster like we do every year, and our goal is to put together the best roster in the NFL.
Steve Spurrier told me, I called him and asked him about Schotty as a ball player, how he got there. He said, well, to start with, he threw the first touchdown pass in our national championship season. I got mad at my Heisman Trophy winner under center and sent him out there and damned if he didn't throw the touchdown pass. But he told me a lot about Schotty. I called Pete Carroll to talk about Schotty. Why did y'all split up? Why'd you fire Schotty if you fired him? How'd that happen? So we got into that real good, because Schotty has been effusive about the impact of not only his father, but Pete and the people that have shaped him along the way. But it's kind of interesting. Old Will and his staff, they go to the next door neighbors of these players that we're drafting or look at drafting and get that next door neighbor to talk about them at that time. Boy, you need to do that when you're dealing with a head coach. Now, I didn't have to go to the next door neighbor with Jimmy. I didn't have to go to the next door neighbor with Barry. But, man, I've been to this guy's next door neighbor personally. And I like our shot with Schotty.
John Machota with The Athletic. For Stephen, you know, we know that you met multiple times with Brian, several hours. Can you just kind of go behind the scenes and share some of the stuff that was talked about during that, and at what point you guys kind of felt comfortable making him the next head coach?
You know, as I said, and certainly I probably more than anybody have respect, you know, for what Schotty's role was. I mean, Mike was our play caller. He was our head coach, and then he was our play caller. And, you know, Schotty was there to support him as the offensive coordinator. But I think some of the most important things for us, after you get to know the man better and you see the energy, you see the way he can communicate with Jerry, with myself, with the room, you know, certainly that jumped out at you. But the bigger thing, as I mentioned, you know, we certainly want continuity, but we also want change. And, you know, just felt like, you know, we need something that's going to freshen it up. Mike did one hell of a job here. He's the winningest coach, I think, in the history of the franchise. You know, had an unprecedented, you know, 3-year run, winning 12 games. So, you know, Mike did a lot of great things here. But at the same time, you know, we just felt like, Jerry felt like, I was supportive of it, you know, that we did need change. And we wanted to hear how that was going to happen. And, you know, it's not just the X's and O's. We obviously went extensively through the X's and O's, but we also, you know, you get into the schedules, you get into how you get your players motivated, how you take care of your players. All those things are, you know, part of being a head coach, and it's a lot. And that's why, you know, a lot of people sometimes scratch their head, why would you go with a first-time head coach? You know, that's been the way of the league these days. Most are going with these young offensive wizards that hadn't been head coaches. But I think we got a better version of that because of Schotty's experience. I mean, everybody's mentioned it. 25 years of NFL coaching and a whole lifetime of being around it. He played the game, you know, high level of competition in college. Certainly that made an impression on him, but it was real important, and the more we met, the more we wanted to meet. And I think that was helping us, you know, come to a conclusion on what that decision should be in terms of, you know, Coach Schottenheimer being our next head coach.
And then for Brian, real quick, just what was that moment like when it was Jerry or Stephen or whoever told you, hey, we're moving forward with you, you're the next head coach?
Humbling. There's so many incredible coaches in this profession at every level. Again, I think I look back on my journey and, you know, the fact that I'm sitting up here with these two men in front of you guys is a great lesson for coaches. It's a great lesson for my kids, for some of our players about persistence. And you get knocked down, you get back up, and you keep working. And I'm incredibly, incredibly honored to be sitting in this chair because it's such an incredible profession with so many great coaches that when I got the news, I really couldn't speak. I really couldn't speak, and immediately I went to seeing my father's face and knowing how proud he would be of me.
And I'll say he turned around and called his mama right there in front of us. And that was very emotional. And I kind of set him up. I said, you know, you are a first-time coach, and I believe we're hanging around the rim. I think we've got in place a team that can get there right now. I had other coaches tell me that were wanting the job. You're right there, this, that, and the other. So I started to explain to him, but tongue-in-cheek, that I just couldn't take the risk of going with someone that was doing it for the first time. And then proceeded to go over some of the things that we talked about right there. And that's how he found out. He started, in my mind, finding out we'd be at our Monday morning coaches meetings. And we'd be sitting there, and this year, more often than not, I'd have my head down and just be sitting here listening. And all of a sudden, that shotty would pop out with something. I go, hell, that's pretty good. This is kind of a somber morning. That's pretty damn good. Okay. Those are the kinds of things that give you an advantage if you've have proximity. And that was an edge to go along with the many boxes over here that were not checked. But that was kind of the edge. Nobody, no situation checks all the boxes.
Nick Harris, forward Star Telegram. This first one's for Jerry right here in the front.
Where are we?
Right here. You obviously know the man to your right very well. When you talk to fans are super impatient. They see two NFC East teams playing yesterday. Obviously the drought that we've spoken to. I know you've spoken to fan sentiment, but why should fans buy into Brian Schottenheimer?
Well, you have touched on one point. Our fans have been very patient. Very patient. And through you to them, I want to tell them how appreciative that I am of the support and of their interest in the Dallas Cowboys. Now, there's a whole bunch of those fans that look and are interested because they want to see me grovel, whatever it is. But I'm not putting that up there much. But to those fans who have been with us, this decision to bring Shotty in is risky. It's not a Hail Mary at all in any way. But it's founded over some very unique, as I started off, unique sets of circumstances. I know how much our fans are into the Dallas Cowboys. And for me to be into it is no solace at all. We're interested, they're interested, I'm interested in getting to those playoffs and winning. This is the best way that we can go to the playoffs and win.
My next one's for Brian, if I could really quick. You've worked with Dak Prescott for 3 years now. Obviously, he had a lot of support for you. What do you feel like you two can work on together to unlock even more of his game?
Well, before I respond to that, I'd like to go back with one thing, Nick. I'm not doing this by myself. I've got the incredible support of Jerry, Stephen, the Jones family. The young men that are sitting behind you, we're doing this together. So my message to the Cowboys fans and community is we're going to do this together, and we're going to build this thing the right way. We're going to get the culture right. The X's and O's will come. That doesn't matter. But the support and the work ethic of these guys that sit behind me, incredibly humbling that they know what it takes to win too. So it's not just me, it'll be me and the staff. Your second question, I apologize, was?
You've worked with Dak for the last 3 years. What do you feel like you can get out of him? What do you feel like he can get out of you as well?
You know, iron sharpens iron, and Dak and I have an incredible relationship, just like I have an incredible relationship with all these guys. Dak and I know how to push each other's buttons. We know how to have hard conversations. I laugh because I think about in training camp last year, a ball got intercepted, and we kind of had a thing in place where it was like, if you throw an interception, you come out. And so I took Dak out, and he's like, what? Like, he pushed back. He's like, ah. And the competitor in him is special. And so I think he and I working together, along with the rest of the guys, putting together the system, there'll be tweaks. There's going to be changes. But he's the type of worker that changes an entire organization. And I think he and I see the game of football offensively very, very similar. And we'll have tons of communication moving forward on some of the thoughts of things we want to do, whether it's tempo or, some of the different things we're trying to do with our play action passing game, the run game, things like that. But he's easy to talk to, and I love and respect him along with all those guys.
Hey guys, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. 2 questions. The first I'll lead to Shotty, kind of circling back to what Jerry and Steven both said as far as freshening things up, looking for a change. From a head coach perspective, that's going to key in on the offense. Generally speaking, how do you look to move forward as far as modernizing the offense? You talk about solving for the quarterback. What does that look like under a Schottenheimer era? Yeah, again, I go back to my days with Pete. I think if you go back and you look at some of the things we did in Seattle, obviously the starting point for me would be things that our players do well. You're always going to start with that. If your system's not flexible enough to do what your players do well, then you're probably in the wrong business. But I'm a big believer in cut splits. I'm a big believer in shifts and motions to distort things.
Yes.
Oh
We're going to do a great job of marrying our runs and our passes and make those look the same.
Yes.
I'm proud
That's
to say
what I've been
that
talking about.
2 different times in my career as a coordinator, we led the league in rushing. And they go hand in hand. The running game and the action passing game go hand in hand. But I would say there's a tempo element that we're excited to mix in, that our players have all shown an affinity for. And let me expand on that a little bit. Why do players like tempo? Well, they like tempo because it allows them to play free. You guys have heard some of the play calls. Dak could rattle off 4 or 5 of them right now. They're pretty long. So when you go fast and you're playing on the ball, these guys, it's a little bit more like pickup basketball, and those would probably be the biggest things that I would say from an offensive standpoint.
From a personnel and roster building standpoint, salary cap management as well for Jerry and Steven, you guys talk about learning some hard lessons, especially from 2024, depth issues once you guys were ravaged by injury. Just as far as salary cap management goes, free agency and the like, looking in the mirror is one way that you can learn things. Another way is to look at what your opponents and enemies are doing and try to kind of take from their strategies. When you look at a team like the Eagles, for example, do you feel there's anything that you guys can kind of take from their strategies, seeing as they handle free agency a certain way and they're back in the Super Bowl this year, that kind of could work for the Cowboys going forward?
Yeah, I think you certainly look at that. I think you look at your competitors in your conference, what it's going to take to have success, whether that's a 49er team or whether that's an Eagle team. Obviously, the 49ers, had the injury bug situation, and in this salary cap era, if that injury bug hits you hard enough, it's it can be difficult to overcome. And but at the same time, that's the goal, is to really do a good job with your draft, college free agency. That should be where your strong depth is. Obviously, this year we were counting on playing those guys right away, and they had to jump right in, and as the injuries came, more and more had to jump in. And but I think the bigger thing here is just where can we, which has been our goal in the past, where can we, in free agency, take care of some core needs so that when the draft comes, you are able to take the best player on the board, not unlike we did with CD. We weren't necessarily in that draft looking for a receiver, but CD Lamb's sitting there, and it's obvious what you do there. And I think if you do some things in free agency, like we've done in the past, to really take care of your roster before the draft comes around, you have a much better chance. But certainly, you look at the blueprints. Everybody does it different. Kansas City's doing a great job bringing young guys along, and those type of things. And like a team like Philadelphia, you certainly look at the way they're doing it, where they went out and did some things with some veteran players. You have to take a look at that, and then you got to find exactly what fits your core, your DNA with our players and what we have, and what gives us the best chance to compete against. Certainly, you start with your division, the Eagles, the Commanders, and the Giants, and then you stretch that out, and what does it take to beat the 49ers, to beat the Rams? Certainly, those are all things that come in the mix.
I'll answer this. It's money management. Cap is financial. When I bought the Cowboys, several of your counterparts rode over with me on this little jet airplane, rode over to my home in Little Rock, Arkansas. And we got off the plane and rolled up there to pick us up was a 5-year-old dirty Ford Bronco. And they got off and said, "This doesn't make a lick of sense. You just bought the Cowboys and you're flying a jet and you drive up here in a 5-year-old dirty Bronco." And I said, "It makes perfect sense. You can't have it all. You got to sacrifice someplace to get the other. If you try to have it all, you can pay the fiddler when you've used up your credit." That's salary cap. That's a salary cap. Not one that we won't hear, "Oh, what about that team? They've got the same salary cap issue you do, and they've got that done." Well, it's because all teams are different, and they've made those decisions as they've moved along. We want to improve significantly how we are doing the cap. The cap takes a big hit when you're invested in players that have injuries, significant injuries. So the cap can take a big hit at that time, cap management. But it's still there. It's still there. It's as real as if it was never there, the availability of it. And so if somebody thinks it's daunting, I try to answer you when we're talking. And so you hear me talk about, well, we have to manage the cap. Why not this free agent? Why don't you go do this? Not necessarily why didn't you go do that with that, or the timeliness of how you did it, but why didn't you go do that? That's all management, okay? I want our fans to know that I can manage really good. I do real well managing. I know that that bank account's full, that doesn't mean you got money. It just means you hadn't paid your bills due 60 days from now. So you got to look around the corner. You got to be good at it, and you got to live with the time that you're looking around the corner. Okay? And so that's what you see here. No apologies. Everybody has to do it. We obviously hadn't done it well enough. I think our first Super Bowls that I was involved in were before the cap. And so we have to do a better job in that area. Can we? You bet you can. You bet you can. Now, all in, we just spent some of it for Dak. We spent some of it for Lamb. We spent some of it for several of our players. It was an allocation, an anticipation of what we weren't going to spend or not spend in the future. All of that said, we Stephen, me, spend a lot of time in this area. And I'm not talking about just sitting there in the office on a chalkboard. I'm talking about 3 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep and you're sitting there doodling that cap.
Brad Sham, 105.3 The Fan. Brian, how long have you been thinking about and prioritizing being a head coach, and did this opportunity surprise you?
Humbly speaking, Brad, when I was probably 20 years old, 22 years old, I was throwing the first touchdown pass of the 1996 National Championship season. I actually had a card in my wallet that I had written down a goal. And it said I wanted to be the youngest head coach in the history of the National Football League. I think at the time it was David Shula. And that's when I started thinking about it. And that's why when a couple of these opportunities didn't work out for different reasons, I thought for a while it might not happen. But it's been a lifelong dream. I mean, how do you wake up every day in a household with your mentor, your best friend, see the sacrifice and the work ethic that he does? Someone told me, it's a cute story, they told my dad, they said, hey, is Brian getting into coaching? And he goes, yeah, I'm trying to talk him out of it. I don't want him to, and his mom sure doesn't want him to do it. But I did. And I think it was his really good friend, Bill Cower, that said a year or two later, he said, Marty, you're missing the boat. He said, the fact that Brian got into coaching is a compliment to you because you made it fun for him, he respects you, and he's following in your footsteps. And so it's been a lifelong dream, a lot of work. But like I said, that note card was in my wallet at an early age, and it's been a long time coming, but it's here.
Did this opportunity surprise you?
I think as the conversations went and we talked more and more, no. I think, there's a ton of reason. Stephen's already touched on it. The continuity through change. I know the players. I know the building. I know our strengths. I know our weaknesses. I know our issues. And the more and more we got into conversations, sitting around and just discussing different things, I wanted even more. And here we are.
Let me say this. We wanted Brian to call the plays. We cherish his relationship with our players. We wanted him to call the plays. As my mind and our mind would drift around to alternatives, I believe, he doesn't have to speak for this, but I believe if he doesn't call the plays, he's probably not with the Cowboys. He doesn't have to speak to that, and he probably might not know himself, really. I'm not talking down. But I know one thing, one of us, I think Jerry, said, have you ever thought about that if we've kind of gotten over in this area of potential head coaching with Brian, to some degree, the conversation he's referring to. And Jerry said, you know something, if we went that way, as much as we've gone down the path, there'd be some heartbreak here. There'd be some knock the slats out from under. I'm just giving you an idea of how the process was going as we were looking at alternatives of the other people that might be coaching the Dallas Cowboys, and Brian calling the plays. So having said that, just to give you a little bit of insight, Brian, I'll tell you this, my lifelong dream was to get involved in sports and pro ball. And my master's thesis was the role of oral communication in modern day football. Had I not had that dream, had I been sitting there, I was 46 when I bought the Cowboys, had I not been sitting there for 25 years, every moment thinking about, my God, I'd watch that Lamar Hunt and he'd be up there with the Chiefs. While I was doing that, the same mind would come home from college and go out in the backyard with a stick and a ping pong ball and play a complete World Series by myself, hitting the ball over the fence. So that dreaming, if you hadn't dreamed about it, if you hadn't gotten ready to go, when that damn train comes by, you'll be grabbing air on that caboose. You have had to have thought and pictured yourself that way a long time, or you'll miss that damn train. You will. All of this was in the mind. That's all of this was there. And why is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
Jerry, Tim Kalishaw, Dallas Morning News, back here in row 3. Appreciate the shout out earlier. Having said that, you know, since your last NFC Championship game, this is the 7th coaching hire you've made. That's a unique situation among GMs. Others do not get that luxury. How would you tell the fans again how this unique system is working?
Well, it makes it unique because I've been with the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have had 7 coaching hires, and it happens I've been here for those 7 coaching hires. I'm not so sure, you know, average time a head coach coaches in the NFL is about 3.4, 3.5 years that they coach in the NFL average time. I'm not for sure what it is with the general managers. It could be less or more than that, but it's a big turnover, especially the last 10 or 15 years with you there, okay? And if I could ever think, the story I just told Tim, I got up and I went to work and I lived on that hope and that promise, and I had a lot of gas. And my point of telling the ping pong ball and bat story was I can live in those dreams, and I live real good there. But I'm practical enough to know you can't eat those dreams. So you got to go put some hard action to it. Life is real. But boy, those dreams are real there too. I'm dreaming of the Cowboys playing in a game like the one I saw last night when the Eagles were sitting up there with those Chiefs. I'm dreaming of it. I will always dream of it. I've never quit dreaming about it. I want that.
Jerry, I hear you.
Jane
Sound
Slater,
nice,
NFL
Jerry.
Network. Jerry, to a lot of
nice.
us on the outside, it did look like this process took a bit. What was the reason for that? Was there a point during your conversations with Mike that you thought that he would stay? Was there something that came up in those conversations that you needed to change? And what did he say, or some of the coaches that you reached out to, give you confidence that this was the guy that you needed, particularly given some of the criticism about some of the decisions and the coaching in recent years?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I wasn't aware of any clock. Where's the clock? There are a hell of a lot more important things than a clock. Take a long time to do this. How about the timing to do that? If I'd have screwed around with clocks in my life, I wouldn't get to be sitting up here. And by the way, you say, well, if you'd watched the clock, you wouldn't be sitting up here explaining why you hadn't been to a playoff game in all those years, too. I understand. I get it. One of the fun things about this deal is you get to start a new clock every time you line up for the year. And so I really can block out, not block out the practical things, because I don't care if it is the new year. If they're about to take your house away, that'll go from last year into this year. So there's reality that goes with it. So at least I'm sitting here because I know how to deal with reality. Okay? And so to answer that question is simply, it never occurred to me there was a clock at all. When I was trying to buy the Cowboys, I think I did read someplace, Tim, you might have not remembered or what have you. I read someplace where that process and all that was going on was maybe creating some time problems relative to the clock of the NFL or the clock of that. I've really not had the experience of that being the determining factor. I heard this year that we didn't get Dak signed quick enough. Dak, you're sitting right back there. You want to stand up and tell him you had something to do with that?
No, thank you.
Didn't get Lamb signed quick enough. Okay, there's so damn many more things to think about than that clock. It's unbelievable. So I hear it, and I understand the point. But I think it is fair to say that clock doesn't affect me that much.
Coach Schottenheimer, I love the way that you've reflected, you've sort of manifested how you want to get there. We know that Dak's big on that as well. How do you want to be remembered when you leave the Dallas Cowboys one day?
Number one is a champion. And number two is someone that created one of the greatest cultures professional sports has ever seen.
Ed Werder, WFAA, back here in row 4 next to Kalashaw. Back with the Dak Prescott delegation. Brian, my question is, Dak's missed a large portion of 2 of the last 5 seasons with injuries. It's going to be, I think, 32 when the next season starts.
He's a young 32.
What's your vision? You talked about how important the quarterback is, all of you have in these kinds of decisions. What's your vision for him going forward?
I think when you talk about Dak, number one, I've had the best seat in the house for the past couple of years in terms of the first year 1 as a consultant, watching. Literally, I remember the first day I was in the building, he came up and introduced himself, said hello, and we were just talking, and people that we mutually respected, and we talked about that. But, being around the last couple, years, my vision for him is he's one of the best. And through the coaching that he's going to get, through the hours and hours and hours of time that he and I will spend together, he's going to play elite level football, and he's going to lead us to championships. And that's because of the way he works, the way he prepares. This guy prepares different. Ed, he does. He prepares different. This guy, I'll be coming down late at night and trying to get something to drink, and I just have to move around because my eyes are bugging out from watching video. And he's still in the building doing his, I guess it's hot, cold therapy, whatever that is. I don't do that. But we got the right guy. And working closely with him and these other players, we're going to win. And we're going to win a championship. Otherwise, why are we doing it?
Dak, you're sitting right behind Ed Werder there. Reach up there and squeeze him on his neck and show him what a little problem is with your health. Feels like.
All righty, we're out of time. And thank everybody again for coming.
All right, so I said, oh man, that was kind of long. Pause. I tell you what, it's a couple of points. There's a couple of points that I took from that. I'll probably do that on another video, but I will say this. One of the things that stuck out with me with that is that he mentioned something that I've been saying about the Cowboys for a very long time. And I think it was when when it was playing the Rams, and the Cowboys was coming in on fire. I mean, I think they just beat the Bucks, and it was playing the Rams. If I'm correct, I could be wrong, but I think it was when they was playing. I think it was play they was playing. They had just beat the Buccaneers, I think, with Tom Brady. They was playing, and then they was playing the Rams. And one thing about the Rams that I always liked is actually the Rams, the 49ers, was that they pre-snap offense be on point. They be doing so much things, so many different looks that it disrupts the defensive ability to be able to. You need a split second. Okay, a split second. The moment that ball is hiked, a split second. If I can get a defender to freeze just for a split second, the favor goes towards the offense. And I've always said as a Cowboys fan that the Cowboys pre-snap offense sucks. Anybody, I think just about every fan or anybody that's watching a Cowboys game knows about 95 to 98% of the time what the Cowboys are going to do once they break that huddle, get to the line. Because there's no movement, there's no shade, there's no disguising to be able to hold the defense. They get out the huddle and they hike the ball. You know what I'm saying? You watch the 49ers, you watch the Rams, you watch the Chiefs, you watch these teams, you watch Philly, you watch these teams where offensively you're wondering why. Why are they doing the things that they're doing? Is because they pre-snap. It's unpredictable. You don't know what they're gonna do. They can come out with the same 3-4 plays with the same look, the same what's danger, but they disguise it in a way to where it's like it's throwing the defense off. And for him to come out here and say he wants to do, you know what I'm saying, motions and disguise and, you know what I'm saying, run plays and pass plays, I ain't gonna lie, I'm all for it. I'm definitely all for it because, you know, there's just certain things that, you know, like Jerry said, you know, that he said some other coaches that came in to you know, mention to him, like they right there. I don't know, like even with all the stuff, the BS that the Cowboys been going, they're literally they're right there. It's just one, the culture. It's two, the owner Jerry Jones and his staff actually getting behind the coaches and letting them be able to the pieces that they need. I'm gonna say this last point and I'm gonna wrap this up. I forgot what his name. He used to play for the Cowboys. He's on First Take, and he mentioned something, and I had to look back and think about it. I was like, you know, he's right. He said the last time, if you actually seen Jerry, the last time Jerry went all out to actually really believing in himself that he wanted to win, he did that. And I think that was the year that they went and they had got T.O., they had got a couple of other players, but it was that stint where they had got Terrell Owens. I think it was like a good 3-4 years. And he said that was the time, he said that was the last time that he seen Jerry being all in and actually really legitimately wanting to win a Super Bowl. And he said his biggest disappointment was that them as a players couldn't get over that hump, couldn't bring home that championship. But Jerry did everything he possibly could to put the players and the team in position to win. And I gotta admit, ever since then, Jerry hasn't been all in regards to, okay, we're going to get this player, we're going to get that player, we're going to get this player. I don't care what nobody says. I'm going to get this. I'm going to do that. You know, and granted, you know, as a owner, as a GM, you got to look at all avenues and all, saying, like you said, the salary cap and all this other stuff. And you got to look at the, saying, as sometimes I would say the bigger picture. And I think as fans, sometimes we don't see the bigger picture. We only see what we see on TV, what's, or what's being said, but not behind the scenes. And I think with Jerry, hopefully he's realizing that in the past, he's giving up. And I think, and I will say this with Steven, that he's given, they're not being so quick, and it could be a plus and a minus. They might being so quick to sign players to these big contracts because in the past, they sign these contracts and give us money, and they don't live up to the contracts that they've been given. Like, for example, I say, don't get me wrong, the Barbarian, Marion Barber, they gave him that huge contract. Dude, he didn't live up to the starting role. Miles Austin had a breakup, but he was injury prone. And after a while, as it you lose money when you pay all this money. And again, it's like I'm gonna make another video about this. But I gotta understand where Jerry be coming from in certain situations. But again, getting back to Schotty and his hiring, granted, yes, he hasn't had any head coaching experience, but he has been around a crap load of coaches to be able to, take his own, pros and cons, plus and minuses to really, you know, saying bring and be the type of coach he wants to be. You know, he you know, and so it's interesting. You know, it's interesting. I thought that they was gonna go with that they was gonna try to wheel in Dion, but I don't think. In fact, I will say this. I'll say this, and I'll wrap this up. I know I said it already. It's like kind of like me in church. The pastor be like, all right, we're gonna be done with this. But yeah, I think I'm be done. 2 more minutes. I will say this. This is, if this don't work out. Now I think they'll have talks. I think I heard the talks that this might be a way to get Jason Witten, you know, saying in tune to being a head coach. But I will say this. If this does not work out, let's see the timeline between how long, I had to look it up, between his contract that he has here, I think it's 4 years, and the contract and in regards to Deion Sanders. Let's see if they match up. Because as much as I wanted Deion Sanders to come, because again, it's the culture. I think Deion would have brought a certain culture, that old school culture in which, like, yo, this is what needs the culture, you know. But again, Deion's doing some things over in Colorado. I don't think the time is now. I think Deion was to change his mind. It'll have to be once he's done at Colorado and not any sooner. But again, you know, my take from this is I'm not going to jump off ship, as I've been hearing a lot of Cowboy, you know, saying fans say. I'm gonna see what they do to build around Shotty. Like I said, I know I'm behind with some of the news that's happening. Like I said, I've been trying to get this channel together, but now I can start, talking about some of the things that's been happening in Dallas the last couple of weeks since the hire of Shotty. Because again, you know, it's one thing to have him, but it's another thing. They talk about change. You can't make change is only change when you take that first step forward. You know, the door is not going to open unless you put your hand on the doorknob and push it open. You know, so I hope, you know, that they learning and realizing, like, yo, we got to go. We have to try something differently. I think, and I honestly think that the wake up call was the Washington and Philly being in a conference game for them to really open their eyes. As far as the coaching, we will see, Cowboys Nation. But with that being said, it's episode 1 on iTalkCowboys TV. I'm J-Rock, J to the ROCC, a.k.a. Iwis, and appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm out.
Touchdown, Dallas. Another Marquez punt. Turpin. Racing up the middle. Uh-oh. Cavante